Happy New Year! Today is January 2nd, and we've made it through Christmas, and now we're off to a brand new year. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas. I certainly did, and I'm ready to get into the new year. One of the things that I need to do today is a little bit of work in my greenhouse. I am I'm trying to protect plants in the greenhouse. We have a terrible winter coming on us here soon, and I'm going to go do a little work in there to ensure, hopefully, that my plants are going to be safe. And I'm going to take you with me and show you what's going on in there, how the plants are doing, and what I'm going to do to my windows to try to conserve some heat in the greenhouse. Let's go. The first thing that I'll say about everything in here is some things are doing good and some things not so good. First, here is my heater. It's a propane heater, and this is how I'm keeping my greenhouse warm. I generally don't run it in the daytime. I run it at night, and this heater keeps things around 50 degrees. And the reason I keep heat in here is I've got some frost tender plants, house plants and things like that. We have a little bit of struggle going on because the temperatures are quite cold in here. It does well though. It does survive really well, and it's so long. I have the vines wrapped up and hanging over, doubled or tripled up, because I really don't want it on the ground. I have a bunch of spider plants, and they're not thriving. Some of them, they're not thriving, but they are surviving. Again, you know, the cooler temperatures. And when I take them out in the spring, they'll all just burst with energy, and I'll trim off, you know, the dead, and they'll just, you know, come back to beautiful life. But there's, you know, with spider plants go through these kinds of changes constantly anyways. Sometimes it's a water situation, sometimes it's nutrients, and sometimes it's the temperature. And to be honest, I'm watering them, but I've been too cold to come out here and just, you know, constantly figure out what needs fertilizer and what doesn't. I do give them fertilizer, but I probably could do a better job and be on a more regular schedule. The schedule depends on how cold I am. This is my banana tree. It does really good in here in the greenhouse. I'm looking straight into the sun. I'm sorry. Let's see if I can get around. It does really good in here. It's in a pot. I say every year I'm going to, you know, plant this thing out, but I know if I do, the whole thing will die back, and I haven't done it. But while it's in the greenhouse, it does put off a lot of new leaves. It does really well. It does not do good if the temperatures dive down in here below 40. This is an asparagus fern that is hanging on for dear life. It's a couple of years old. And by the way, the banana tree, I don't know, it's 4 or 5 years old now. You know, they get a lot bigger, giant actually, if you plant them in the ground outside. But when you keep them in a pot like I've done, and it has been cut back a lot, they don't get that big. But it is 4 or 5 years old now. I've lost count because for some reason I never dated that one. Going back to the asparagus fern, it's just hanging in there. You know, it needs lots of sunshine, direct sunshine, lots of heat, and it will thrive again. It is putting off berries. It does that every from the fall through the winter. I have got 2 pond plants here, held over from last summer. They will go in my pond if I can keep them alive in here. They're doing okay. I've got 2 dead asparagus ferns there. My tomato plant is actually suffering a lot. There's a lot of brown, there's a lot of green, but I've also got tomatoes on it. And what I've been doing is I will cut this down pretty short and then it will bush back out. This is the tomato plant that come June will be 3 years old, but I've kept it year-round in the greenhouse. I've cut it down so many times, and it's struggling right now, but all of that growth, I will cut it off, and it just keeps bouncing back. It goes against all the rules, and it keeps coming back, and it just stays in here year-round, and I get tomatoes on this all year long. Look at this impatient plant. I'm going to put the phone on my tripod and step back against it and show you just how big this thing is. Okay, let me get over here. I'm not standing on any, I'm 5'1" and a half. Isn't this thing just gorgeous? Look at how big it is, how tall it is, and how beautiful. I've got some dead leaves on it I need to clean off. This is a constant, but it is absolutely gorgeous. I am going to say this plant is 4 years old. I'm not 100% sure. I will check before I edit the video because I do have it documented. This has been year-round bloom. I took it outside for the first time this summer and put it under a shade tree, and it did really well. But it stays in here every winter and blooms all winter long. It's full of new blooms, but it is absolutely gorgeous. I don't think I'll be taking it out this coming summer because it's just getting too big. And to get this back inside the greenhouse in the fall, we had to take the doors off the greenhouse to get it through the doorway. But I am so infatuated with this plant. I've never had an impatient that lasted. I've had them over the years. I've had them and they lasted that summer and then they died and kind of behaved like an annual in my area. But this thing has been in full bloom non-stop, and it's simply because it's protected out of bad weather. And then in the summer, other than this past summer, it has always lived in the greenhouse. The greenhouse it just seems to have the perfect humidity, the perfect temperatures, both cool and the heat in the summer. This thing just thrives, and I am just so in love with this plant. This is my most precious plant, I think, out here in the greenhouse. That and my bougainvillea. This is why I keep heat. This plant, the citrus, and the bougainvillea. Everything else would probably survive if I didn't have heat, and maybe not do great like they do now, but if I didn't have heat, this plant would probably go away. I absolutely love this plant. My son gave this to me for either my birthday or Mother's Day. I've got it documented, and if I can find where I wrote it down, I will put it on the screen somewhere. But I'm thinking 4 years old. Okay, here's the citrus. I did a short a few days ago because I thought I was going to be getting this orange right here, but it's not quite fallen off easily, so I left it. But I am sure anxious to get my hands on that orange. So anyways, I'm pretty sure I'll be getting lemons and oranges really soon. Kind of looking forward to it. And normally what I will do is I will slice up those lemons if I don't have time to can the juice, and I will freeze them and save them until I can get enough juice from all of them collectively, and I will make some lemon juice and can that up. Over here in the background is a small baby Chef Lyra. That's it might be 3 years old now. This spider plant right here is my pride and joy. This one, it's in a really big pot, but it is heavy, and all of these babies are just full. This plant stays in the greenhouse. I don't think I took this out this summer. I'm pretty sure I didn't. This stays in the greenhouse where the temperature is regulated, and I don't want it to suffer at all. I need to come in and clean off some bad ones. You know, this kind of stuff always happens. But I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon. That's for sure. I've got a smaller one, even though it's large, over here of the spider plant. This one, it's full of babies. Back here is my bougainvillea. It's going through some changes right now. It's been putting out some new flowers, but it's dropping a lot of leaves, and that's because of it being so cool in here. It stays warm enough for this to survive, but it does struggle a little bit. They don't like to get below 55, and up into the 70s and higher is even better. But it does well through the winter with the small amount of heat that I have in here. I'm not concerned with it. I've had it since 2017, and it stays in the greenhouse, and it goes through these same changes, and it will end up shedding all of the leaves that are yellowing, and it will put out new leaves, new growth, and it'll be just fine. In the background is a large aloe that I've got right there. That's a very old aloe. There's another small, it's about 1.5 years old, I guess. Let me point in the right direction. Small impatient. That impatient broke off last year from the big one and fell into that pot, and it through, this past summer, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Right here is a peace lily, and I need to come in and clean that up. And things are just not cleaned up because it is winter, it is cold. I don't like coming out here except to just maintain water for the plants. So I've not been doing any maintenance, very little fertilizing, and these plants are showing that. I've got a lot of dead growth. Let me get over here. Like this is, you know, over and done with. This one's over and done with. This flower is over and done with. I need to come in here and clean them out. It needs fertilizer, starting to get some yellowing on this plant. I got some new growth as well that has come out. This lily I've had since 2016, and under it in the same pot, let me dip this down just a little. In the same pot under the leaves, I have a cayenne pepper plant that has been in there 3 or 4 years, but I didn't actually plant that. I did put the seeds, but what happened was I had that on my back porch, and the cats, the 2 cats I have, were on the porch, and they kept like biting on and trying to chew on the plant. So I sprinkled some cayenne seeds from my spice rack in the plant around the bottom, and that plant sprouted from one of the seeds, and it has been there ever since. In the summer I do get some cayenne peppers off of it, but since this stays in the greenhouse now, it overwinters and it stays green. I'm not sure if you can see. I have some old peppers. There's some babies. There's a couple of babies on here, but these old peppers I need to pull off, and this puts out a few throughout the winter. This is just a hanging basket, a couple of years old. It's not very happy right now. Again, the cold temperatures are doing a little number on it. But it will survive because this has been here for a few years now. It goes through these same changes when it starts getting cold. All of this on top is new growth. I had cut that back because I don't remember what happened, but what was up here in the pot was not doing well, and I cut it back, and that's new growth over the last couple of months. Really, everything in here is not going to thrive during the winter, but it is a place for me to keep some things safe and they not die for the winter. This is a house plant that, oh, the vines go way down. I've got them looped up. It's struggling just a little bit and putting out some dead leaves. It does that often, and it just keeps rejuvenating new leaves. And I have the vines going up into the ceiling and just trying to train them up this center post right here. This is quite old as well. This plant is about 15 years old, and the one I showed earlier, this one is about 15 years old as well. In this pot right here is my mandevilla. It was really big and going over a trellis, a cattle panel trellis I had in the summer. Because it's in a pot, I cut it back and I brought it in here. This is maybe about 3 years old. I've been bringing it in and out a couple of winters, and so it has survived. Last winter it was a lot bushier, and it did bloom in here in the greenhouse during the winter. So that is, I'll do a real quick sweep. That's the citrus. This is the Schefflera back there, the big spider plant, the medium spider plant, the bougainvillea, the aloe, and the small impatient back here. And then, let me swing around. I don't have a ton of room in here. The hanging basket, there's some pond plants on the shelf over there. The lily. And there is a plant down here. I don't remember what that thing is called. It grows into a tree. It's kind of like the corn plant, which I have a corn plant over in the far back corner, but I can't remember the name of that. But that's down there. And over on the back row, hanging in front of the windows, are random house plants. That cactus there, and then a lot of the spider plants. All of these come out and hang about throughout the garden in the summer. And then I have this very tired, very sickly petunia that's still hanging on. I wonder if I trim that back and keep just the small growth, if I can keep it going this winter. I don't know. It's still putting out some random, but there's a lot of dead in it as well. I might clean that up and see how it does. This bed on the bottom, I don't know, that might be a 10-12 foot bed. Raised bed right here. This is where I raise carrots and lettuce during the winter. I have not put any out yet. I do intend to really soon. Maybe even some radishes, but whatever I can raise in the winter that is small stuff that doesn't take up a lot of room and is fast maturing, like radishes, that's what I will put in this box right here. Now, the main reason I even came out here today is because our weather is going to turn ugly really soon. It's kind of up in the air what we're going to see, if we're just going to see a lot of rain or if we're going to see some snow, or what we will see. But our temperatures are going to dip way below our average. And some of the weather people are saying that we could see potentially 20 to 30 degrees cooler than we normally do for this time of year. And because that's going to make it super, super frigid, and my heat barely keeps things around 50 the way it is, I came out here really to put plastic up on the windows. It helps a lot. I'm not using actual plastic, like off of a roll of plastic. What I use is bubble wrap. See all of this back here? That's bubble wrap. That this might be about the 4th year that I'm going to use it. They're pre-cut from previous years, and I put them up on the windows. This greenhouse is all windows from halfway up. It's windows everywhere. Hardly any wall space. There is no wall. Yeah, there's a small wall over there. There's little sections here and there of wood for wall, but it's basically windows all the way around. And these windows capture cold temperatures and adds to it being cold in the greenhouse. And I have found that putting up the bubble wrap on the inside kind of keeps a little tiny bit of the cold temperatures at bay. It raises the temperature a few degrees during the daytime, and I believe that it helps hold in a little bit of heat at night. Even if it's just a couple of degrees, it helps. It's very little work on my part. So, and since I already have the bubble wrap pre-cut from where I did it the first year, maybe 4 years ago, it's not that much to do. I just have to move some plants to get to all of the windows, but it does help. I also use the bubble wrap on my glass door, the exterior glass door at the house. It helps because, you know, all doors will draft, and I get a lot of draft around the door, and then the glass puts out cold into the living area. So I put the bubble wrap on my interior glass doors as well, and it does help. You can stand there with a little string and just watch the string blow back and forth without the bubble wrap, and with the bubble wrap it's kind of still. Every little bit helps, especially if we're going to get so much more colder than our normal. Our normal really low temperatures, we have experienced a 15 here and there, but it's usually 18 or 19 at our coldest overnight low, and we'll experience that sometime mid-January, and then, you know, a couple of days in February. But other than that, our normal low is in the 20s. But if we're gonna dip 10, 20, or 30 degrees cooler than that, we need all the help that we can get. So that is why I actually came to the greenhouse today, is to put up, it's fairly decent outside. It's in the low 40s, and we're just going downhill after today for our highs. So I figured today is the best day for me to get out here and put up this bubble wrap. I have a big roll. The bubble wrap, I think I bought mine at Walmart. It was super cheap for a big giant roll. And I've used that bubble wrap for other things as well, and I still have a fairly large roll. I have my pipes wrapped, the ones that are exposed, which is garden pipes. But I have a lot of the faucets, you know, that where you hook your water hose to, that are all exposed. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the house itself. I have 2 in the chicken yard, so that's 6. I've got 1 in the back garden, that's 7. 1 in the goat yard, that's 8. And 1 on my husband's shop, that's 9. Oh, I've got 1 on the outside of the greenhouse. So I have 10 faucets where you turn the water on and off that are exposed in the weather. I have them all wrapped with, it's a foam, clamp-on foam stuff. But I might go back and just do a little bubble wrap around that and maybe zip tie the bubble wrap on, just for extra precaution. Because a few weeks ago, what did our temperatures get to? We had a few days where we got down, I think we got down to 19 and 20. And I have exposed PVC pipe, half-inch pipe in the garden. I had drained that off, but I must not have gotten all of it, and a little bit of water was still in it. I mean, I'm having to guess, because otherwise why would it freeze and rupture? But to my knowledge, when I walked away for the last time using the hose out there, I had drained it, and there was still water, so it ruptured. And because it was so cold the next, I waited a few days to repair that because it was so cold out. I didn't want to deal with it, so I just shut the water off at the house. It feeds from the house and comes out here. And I ended up having to do a pipe repair that I don't want to have to do again when it's cold like this. So the connectors where they turn on and off, most of them have a Y because I've got multiples hooked to them. Those things are terrible at splitting. They're brass, or a brass look. I'm not sure if they're actual brass, but they split so easy. So I think for extra precaution, I'm going to wrap those with some strips of bubble wrap as well, because bubble wrap is you know, can get rained on and it's not going to hurt it. So I'm going to put up all of my bubble wrap in here, and I'll be right back. I will say this. On bubble wrap, you have the bubbles on one side and then you have a flat side. As a general rule, normally what I do is I have a spray bottle of water and you just mist the window, and this will just cling, and it clings for a long time. But since we're going to potentially have these extreme temperatures, once in a while the corners will fall and it'll hang like, you know, like so, and one corner be off. I don't want that to happen and it be too cold and I don't want to come out here. So I'm going to use tape today, but most of the time this stuff clings. Some pieces will cling through till the spring when I'm ready to take it all down, and if some pieces, it just depends probably on how much dirt is you know, on the window, and my bubble wrap is probably dirty too. It has to be a really clean surface to cling to. Let me say that again. It needs to be a really clean surface in order for this to cling properly and stay. But to avoid all of that, I'm going to use tape and just put some tape on each corner to hold it up. These do not fit the windows exactly because this is the width of the roll that I bought. But it covers more than it doesn't, so every bit helps. The good thing is I don't have any gaps from the window to the wood. They're all super tight, and I don't really have a draft where the window meets the wood. These windows come out. I pull them out in the spring and I put them up in the winter, and they're just held in with some screws. So I don't have to worry about the outer edges because there's really no gaps. And as long as I cover, you know, 90% of the window, it's going to help. And I'm just using a roll of packing tape, which is really sticky. Works good. And that's all I do. And I do it to all the windows all the way around. All right, I have the plastic on most of the windows, all the way down and including my doors and behind the citrus. I am short 3 windows. Not really sure why. I got these 2 windows here, but I've got 3 windows there that I need to cut some more. I'm going to have to go in the house and get my roll of bubble wrap and cut those. I might have, maybe I tore them up last year, taking them down. Maybe something happened to them, I don't know, but I will have to go cut 3 more. I also did clean up this little petunia in this hanging basket. We'll see how it does during the winter. I'm not going to hold hope out, but if it winters over and, you know, is here still for the spring, that'll be a pleasant surprise. It's not a fancy greenhouse, and it wasn't expensive. We built it ourselves with scrap lumber and repurposed windows. But it does the job of what I need to do. It's 17 by 22, I think. It does keep all of my plants survivable during the winter. Well, I have been out here for a couple of hours working a few plants and putting up all this bubble wrap. I'm glad I got it on the doors, and I've got most of the windows. The only thing left to do is to go get my roll from the house and cut 3 more windows. I am also going to wrap a couple of faucets with some small strips that I don't know why they're left over. I don't really know where I would have used these last year unless they were just extra in the pile that I had folded up. But these will work for wrapping. There's really all the faucets, like I said earlier, they're all wrapped, but I wanted to put a little bit of extra on a couple of them. That's 2 extras right there. It's gonna get cold, I have no doubt. And here in the southeast United States specifically, we get cold enough that we complain. I personally freeze, but not as cold as so many other places across this country. But it's enough that I need to do these extra precautions. It has already warmed up a significant amount since I put this bubble wrap on. It really does help, and it was a very small cost involved, and that was several years ago. So this wrap has lasted me a long time. And I just want to say, if you have a drafty window or door and you don't want to feel that draft and you want to help hold in some heat, if you can get your hands on some bubble wrap, or if you already have it and you don't have anything else, like, you know, a lot of people will put sheets or regular plastic off of the roll. If you don't have anything handy but you do have some bubble wrap, it works. The plastic, the clear plastic, is actually pretty expensive. I just did my porch in plastic. It was much cheaper than it has been in prior years because I bought it off of Amazon, but still, I felt like it was still an expense. This roll of bubble wrap at Walmart, I didn't pay much at all. I mean, hardly anything at all compared to the years that I've used it and the amount of coverage, because like I said, I've used it in the greenhouse and I've used it on doors at my own house. So I'm going to go get those last couple of chores done, cut the plastic, bring it out here and wrap those pipes, and then I'm going in for the day. I hope you liked the video. I hope that the tip about the bubble wrap is useful for you. I know everybody can't get their hands on bubble wrap, or they have something better to use. I don't have anything better that I want to use. While I do have plastic wrap left over, I'm not going to waste it cutting it up into small pieces for this greenhouse. And like I said, these are already pre-cut from years prior. That's it for this video. If you like my content and you want to continue following, please hit the subscribe, give it a thumbs up, maybe even the notification bell so you get notified when I put another video up. And until I see y'all again, which will be soon, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.